It seems over the last 20 years, Ireland and New Zealand have created a little bit of a rivalry. Once perennial underdogs, the Irish have emerged as a formidable force challenging All Blacks' dominance. In recent years, that intensity has escalated to new levels, an all-out Ireland All Blacks rivalry. Jeff Wilson, former All Black and rugby personality, doesn't remember things being this way in his time, and figures that this Ireland All Blacks feud reached ignition point when Tana Umaga and Kevin Mealamu WWE-style tackled Brian O'Driscoll, and his captaincy and tour were over in literally 40 seconds into the first test of the 2005 British and Irish Lions tour.
Irish All Black thing started, you know, because when I played, they'd never beaten us, so I'm trying to find that point, and I reckon it was when Brian O'Driscoll and Tana Umaga and was that Kevin Mealamu as well, where they tipped him up when he was playing for the Lions? And it was almost like from then the fire started, right? It was the fact that, man, you'd taken out our top guy, our greatest ever.
Carried off with a dislocated shoulder, it took 25 minutes to reset. That's gotta hurt. It was supposed to be his crowning moment, but fate decided otherwise.
He was on top of his game, the world's best player, leader and captain of the Lions.
So he's out there wanting to showcase his talent on this Lions tour, and within 90 seconds it's all over for him.
O'Driscoll was and is the Irish goat of rugby, a darling of the nation. So lifting a finger on him, which they did more than that, was the same as lifting a finger on the Emerald Isle itself. A green raging fire was lit. The All Black Island rivalry was ignited. This was official, folks, and bad blood was on. Now, how long would this fire last, you ask? Well, good question. That's what we're here to find out. Stay with us on this episode, the fires of the All Black Island rivalry. Now, before we go any further, please like and subscribe. It really helps out our channel. Thank you. Almost 10 years after that Lions incident, which some call Speargate, the All Blacks realised it was a bitter memory in the Irish psyche. And the Irish wanted the All Blacks to know that. A 2013 test at Aviva, Irish turf. This test was the one that got away, if you're Irish that is, leading 19-0 before half-time, up by 5 points on the full-time mark. They thought they'd reeled it in. Star-studded on both sides, this wasn't a match to be missed. McCaw versus O'Driscoll, right? Wrong. It's Ireland versus New Zealand, fighting for something much bigger. Ireland was finally on the cusp of making history by defeating the enemy at home. 81 minutes, the score is 22-17 to Ireland, and all they had to do was get hold of the ball and kick it out. History about to be made, but suddenly a Nonu midfield break. New Zealand gets the ball to the wing and a try is scored, 22-all. This last gasp try by the All Blacks during added time sucked the air out of the 51,000 strong home crowd. Still a chance of a draw, but not a win. Conversion good, final whistle, it's a loss. It's these last minute losses that hurt. Rivalry on. Just to add insult to injury, the All Blacks successfully completed a perfect 2013 with 14 wins out of 14. Once again, the men in green faltered, painfully reminded of the 2012 22-19 closely fought loss at Christchurch. Later, Johnny Sexton admitted he was scarred by the home game loss, probably due to the fact his straightforward penalty goal missed, which would have meant an Irish glamorous and historic win at home. Could it be done? Did Ireland have that fire? The consensus was simply the men in green were not good enough. What you must understand about this rivalry is that unlike the bromance style mutual respect Springboks All Blacks rivalry, the Ireland All Blacks rivalry is one of I don't like you and you don't like me, and let's keep it that way. Think O'Driscoll Umaga, Kane Omani, Ioane Sexton, and many more in the future, I'm hoping, because let's be honest, it makes for great rugby. Roll on 2016, the test is now in Chicago at Soldier Field. With the amount of Irish in the crowd, it may as well be a home game for them. Would they finally overcome their dreaded rival?
It was the Holy Grail. It was the Holy Grail. Who would become the first Irish team to beat New Zealand.
It's now 111 years without a win, and the All Blacks intended to keep it that way. This was no sightseeing tour. This was going to be a heavyweight slugfest. The Kiwis were gonna quell any rumours of a rivalry. You know that green blaze we talked about? The ABs were ready to put it out. In ominous mood, they quickly revealed their intentions with a typical Fijian break by Naholo, resulting in a try in under 5 minutes. Where was that fire? Well, the Irish had other plans and scored 3 first half tries to lead 25-8 at the break. Game on. The possibility of ending the All Blacks' world record 18-match winning streak was near. Unlike before, the Irish were not going to let this one go. For Ireland, there was no fear of a late breakdown and no last-minute Irish collapse like Aviva 2013. Tries to Zebo and Henshaw in the 76th minute made sure of that. Ireland made history and beat New Zealand comprehensively. This was only the 5th time in their history the All Blacks conceded 40 points. Some called it that black stain on Irish rugby removed, and O'Driscoll remarked that this was no lucky break. And if some said that the rivalry was a fringe topic, this big win to the Irish, or big loss for the Kiwis, made sure to highlight that yes, this was a real and pressing rivalry, with neither side backing down. The game proved highly prophetic for their future clashes, always filled with fire and lightning. Now we turn our attention to the 2019 RWC, held in Japan. The All Blacks were set to face Ireland in the quarter-final. For Ireland, the ever-present Sexton was running the game from pivot, and the old warhorse, Peter O'Mahony, was his usually ugly self up front. The Irish were buoyant. They'd beaten the All Blacks twice in 3 years. The fiery rivalry as fierce as ever. What was apparent was how New Zealand evolved since their 2018 defeat in Dublin. If Ireland thought they had the Kiwis' number, they could think again. How did the game go? Barrett and Smith with 2 tries apiece, and Mo'unga with excellent kicking as you'd expect. The Irish were simply beaten in every facet of the game. The All Blacks' plan was simply stretching Ireland's D from the first bell to the last. The Irish were half a step behind the pace. Too many handling errors. Missing 40 tackles will guarantee the L. At one time, it was an embarrassing 29-0 to the All Blacks. Schmidt's decision, as he usually does, to trust in senior players backfired in his face. He used the word heartbroken to describe the match. From the highs of defeating the All Blacks 16-9 in Dublin, this quarter-final loss was devastating for the Irish. They would have the upper hand again though, this time in a 2022 Test series in New Zealand. Ireland had a chance to beat the All Blacks on their own turf. I'll say of this series that the All Blacks were saved from a dreadful 3-0 greenwash. Eden Park once again saved their bacon. But the other 2 games, they were consecutive losses or consecutive victories if you were green. The second test, 23-12 to the Irish, and the third test, 32-22. Coach Faz called Sexton their main man. The Irish had started on top and finished strong. A Van der Fleer try, Sexton playing chess like a grandmaster, bringing Ireland to a 22-3 lead against the home team. A brace of tries to New Zealand, 25-22. It's now a 3-point game. The All Blacks camp had stated before the series, we knew the storm was coming. All Black captain and gentleman Sam Cane was gracious in defeat. Monster man Peter O'Mahony, on the other hand, wasn't as gracious in victory and added fuel to the fire of this rivalry. Fun fact, Johnny Sexton is one of only 6 men to ever captain a team to a series victory over the All Blacks, in New Zealand to be exact. Clutch Rugby thinks the All Blacks won't admit it. This is something that's gotten under their skin. Their bitter rivals managed to get one over on them, at home. Last time this was accomplished was Philippe Saint-André's 1994 French side. For a deeper look at that series, check out our 5 times the All Blacks were stunned video. Link in the description below. The Rugby World Cup in France in 2023 would prove to be another chapter in the Ireland All Black rivalry. Ranked number 1 in the world, Ireland had beaten Sia Khaleesi Springboks in pool play. A lot of people were speculating that Ireland could win the World Cup.
I'm going to ignore the fact that Ireland are favourites.
They deserve to be the #1 team in the world. Ireland.
I'm sure they would have loved to meet any other team in the quarter-finals, but they didn't. They met New Zealand, the same team that put them out of the quarters in Japan. And to be fair, Ireland and quarter-finals don't exactly have a great relationship. They've never made it past them. History would repeat itself. But that's not why I bring up the 2023 game. It's for a number of other reasons. This was Johnny Sexton's final game, his final World Cup for Ireland. Like BOD on that 2005 Lions tour, this was supposed to be Sexton's crowning moment. Final whistle blown, Sexton felt that ref Wayne Barnes' last-minute call was not correct, which he wrote about in his tell-all book, and included Rieko Ioane's "Have a nice flight home" remarks. Finally, Dublin 2024, November the 8th. The Irish back at Aviva, defending home turf against their favourite team they love to hate.
You know, for many years, and no disrespect, Brian, there wasn't the competition. And it's gone from Chicago to you guys beating us more than we're beating you.
Unlike those 14 games undefeated situation, this All Blacks team was one that didn't carry that aura of invincibility, thanks to a 4-game losing streak to the Boks and 3 lucky wins over England with new coach Razor Robertson. It was actually a boring game. Rugby expert Tim from Egg Chasers called it overwhelmingly underwhelming. Goldie wasn't so kind. He said Ireland didn't show up. A poor Aviva crowd now being compared to the old days of Lansdowne. Did I say boring game? It seemed as if the RWC Paris quarter-final loss took the rivalry's fire out of Ireland, as they just weren't able to respond. So, if you're like the rest of us, you were thinking the rivalry had all but fizzled, the Kiwis dismantled the Irish, the feeling was this rivalry is over. If you thought that too, think again. Fans, this is just getting started. After winning the match, Rieko Ioane took to Instagram and told Sexton, "Put that in your book." Ouch! Rieko Ioane throwing gas on the fire. If the past is anything to go by, there's more to come. Rivalry, Ireland, All Blacks, fire and lightning. As always, thanks for watching, leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on this rivalry. We value your feedback. Stay tuned.